Hi, this is John again, the owner and developer of VectorDecks. In this tutorial, we're going to get into VectorDecks steps, step to deck, and steps to landing options. Now with step to deck, you're not going to see a lot of change in this particular view. You'll still have the ability to turn off the left side or the right side. But it really basically has to do with how the step itself is constructed to go down to an existing deck or an existing patio. Let me show you. I'm going to leave that step to deck, and we're going to go apply it to this document. And you'll see down here there's no post. The rails themselves just run down and stop at a given point. And I even extend the stringer here at the bottom so it will butt up against either another deck or a different object that you want the steps to land down to. Now let's go back to the step specifications and work on that step to landing. Go ahead and click on that. You'll see here it's giving you a transitional type step where you'll have a step coming off the deck down to a surface or landing and then proceed down to grade. This was an extremely powerful option that took a lot in the development. It required a sort of a combination of vertical, horizontal, and angles to produce all these type of transitions. It was challenging, but it's well worth the effort. It's going to make these transitional type steps so much easier for you. It'll just require a simple click. You don't have to redraw the steps at all. It knows where it is. It knows its elevation. That's all we need to do is tell it what type of transition you would like for it and in which direction. Now if you've noticed, once you clicked on the step to landing, the landing type options and the landing step direction is now available to you. I'll turn that back off again and show you. See, they're grayed out, and once you click on that step to landing, now you have use of these particular options. The default type will be square, and it'll always default to the left. I'm going to increase this text size a little bit so we could see what we're showing here. This is the top. This is where the step itself comes directly off the deck and then transitions down to the landing and down to grade. Now the next type available is the rectangular landing type. Now that will be a sort of a U-shaped transition where you'll be coming off the deck and landing on a somewhat larger landing, enough room for you to walk and turn, and then continue down to grade. And your third type is a kite-shaped, and that will be a landing where you'll be able to turn as you come down. You'll be coming off the deck down to a landing, somewhat of a kite shape, and then it will turn on a 45-degree angle and continue on down to grade. So as you see, with just simple clicks, you could define the type of landing you want for that particular step. Now the next panel will show you which direction you would like for it to turn in. For example, the default will always be left, but this particular one you could go to the right or go back to the left. The rectangular one, the same thing. If you want that set of steps to go down and then the particular person would be turning to the right and continue on down, you can flip that over to the right side and they will turn to the left and go on down. Now with the square one, you have an additional option where you can go out the front. So you can either go out the left, the right, or you have the front option. Now let's go ahead and apply this and see what it looks like in the document. I'm going to click OK, and then it'll redraw the step to the particular type of landing you've selected. This one being that step down to a landing and then the steps to continue out the front of that deck. So you have a straight flow, but it breaks up those multiple steps. On some high decks this is desirable, but it's costly, so at least you could show your customers the transitions involved here. Now there is some more controls I'm going to show you with respect to each landing type, but first what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the top floor plan view here. It's advisable when you're working with any of the components with VectorDecks, it just speeds the process up and it places the objects in the redraws more accurately. I'm going to turn Draw 3D off also. That will help again with that speed. Now I'm going to go ahead and select that step again and go into those specifications. And now we're going to play around with this bottom control. It's called Top Step Rise. And basically what it does, it gives you control how many steps you'll have from the deck down to that landing. By changing these, it'll automatically change your bottom steps. I'll show you here. We'll move that to 5. So we have 5 steps down to that landing, so it decreased the amount of steps you have down to grade. Now in most cases you want to just evenly space them, but if you have a deck that's turned in any direction, let's make this turn to the left. If you decrease, or let's increase these again, you'll see how it pushes the landing out. So this bottom step will actually be pushed out 8 to 10 inches farther out. So if you wanted to land at a patio in a certain location, it's very helpful to be able to control where that bottom step will land. The only way you can control that is with that controlling the top step. Now I had a lot of situations where I had customers who wanted to be able to walk off the deck down to a rectangular type landing, so a U-shaped type transition, and then walk down back underneath the deck. So head clearance here is going to be critical. I'm going to go ahead and apply this to the document to show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to click OK. And as you saw, it drew that very fast. It replaced that square landing with the step coming out the front with this rectangle landing, with this U-shape, with the steps going back in this direction. Now the reason why I drew it that fast is I had turned off Draw 3D and we're in a top plan view. It's very helpful to work in that view. It'll just speed your designing process up a bit. Then when you're ready, you can just click on that 3D and it'll draw everything in 3D very fast. But as you see here, this front edge of the deck comes over top of this bottom set of steps. So anybody walking down here is going to be confronted with this edge. Now in order to change that, we need to move this landing out a bit. The best way to do that is to add more steps to this top. Looks like we need to move it about 2 or 3. Let's give it a try here. I'm going to go back to that step specification. Now we probably want it to be almost lined up to there, maybe slightly shorter. So if we go 4, we're still not there. You have the choice here. It's going to show you what it looks like before you actually apply it. That looks close enough. So once you think you're comfortable with it, go back in here, and now you see you're probably far enough away so this won't become a factor with anybody walking. I'm going to go ahead and draw this in 3D now just to show you how it looks in like a right isometric view. See, the Draw 3D will draw very quickly, so you can always go back and draw it in 3D. Now I'm going to go ahead and render this in OpenGL. Now that's how quickly we were able to take a simple standard step to grade, create this very sophisticated turn landing without actually drawing anything. We're just clicking on some buttons and making some selections. Now in our next tutorial, we're going to discuss and go over the step specs in the step specifications window. These specs are going to give you control over intricate parts of the step itself, the rise and the run, the width of the step, different finishes. But we'll go over that in our next tutorial.